All right, welcome to NBA Today. I'm George Sedano here, in for Malika Andrews. He's NBA champion Matt Barnes, and it's free agency week, as you see right behind me here. The countdown clock is on. And look, Thursday is going to get crazy when officially it all opens for business. There are so many questions. What's going on in Brooklyn? Is anyone going to help LeBron and join the Lakers? What are the Knicks doing? I mean, there's a ton of questions. And, of course, Woj, Brian Windhorst, Bobby Marks will stop by as well with some answers. So let's start with some notable storylines in free agency. All right, Zach LaVine is set to be an unrestricted free agent. LaVine has averaged over 24 points per game with the Bulls, second most in franchise history among players with at least 80 games, trailing only MJ. Then James Harden has until Wednesday to opt in or decline to his $47.4 million player option for next season. If Harden opts in, he'd be eligible to sign a 2-year, $102 million extension with Philly. And finally, Kyrie Irving has a $36.5 million player option. Woj reported that the Nets want Irving on a shorter deal, whether it's the player option for 1 year or a new 2-year deal. We now welcome in ESPN senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. So, Woj, breaking it all down for us here now, what's the latest on Kyrie's future with the Nets and his timeline to make a decision?
Yeah, George, Kyrie Irving has until Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, to make a decision on that $36.5 million player option. After, if he opts out of it, he can work with the Nets on trying to find a sign and trade elsewhere, or he could opt out and sign into cap space somewhere, which would likely be, if he did that Laker $6 million exception. But listen, that would cost him over $30 million just on his player option, and he could opt into Brooklyn. But if he opts into that deal, then, essentially he could still be traded, but just as an expiring contract. There's no sign and trade. And right now I'm told around the league that outside of the Lakers, who certainly have interest in Kyrie Irving, there are no sign and trade candidates lining up. Now, with a sign and trade, you got to commit to at least 3 years on an extension. And the Nets, of course, would have to agree to take back whatever contracts, assets they could get. So, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern again, that's when Kyrie Irving has to have a decision on that $36.5 million player option for next season.
Woj, you mentioned the Lakers have shown interest, but are the Nets showing interest in what the Lakers potentially have to offer?
No. And listen, they can't negotiate a sign and trade until once free agency starts. And so, but if you're Brooklyn, you look at what LA has to offer or what they'd like to offer, and outside of certainly Anthony Davis or LeBron James, there is not a package that perhaps would make sense for the Nets. And I think for Brooklyn, if Kyrie Irving walks, it certainly puts them in a difficult situation with Kevin Durant. I think, but also the idea of taking back, significant contracts, money moving forward, that may not make sense. I think for Brooklyn, if Kyrie Irving is going to get to the Lakers, he's probably going to have to opt out of that deal and sign at what right now is a $6 million taxpayer mid-level exception.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.